Good afternoon, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and we have a developing tropical cyclone away from Australia's coastline. In fact, Tropical Low 02U now, in my books at least, has a very significant chance of becoming our first tropical cyclone of the 2025-26 Australian tropical cyclone season. If it does, it will pick up the name of Fina or Fina. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section down below. But we've got a tropical low here located about 150 nautical miles towards the northwest of Darwin, which is located here, and it's throwing out some pretty impressive thunderstorm activity and also some pretty impressive rainfall as well. In fact, 227 millimeters fell in 6 hours just towards the west of Darwin last night at Charles Point or Charles Bay or some place like that. And it's also throwing out some pretty significant rainfall up in Bathurst on the Tiwi Islands. Now, this system hasn't developed into a tropical cyclone yet. In fact, it's just a weak tropical low with a very slow and broad rotation pattern right now, but it is nonetheless getting there. It is a significant potential of becoming the first tropical cyclone of this season, and forecast models are very, very favouring this storm's chances. Now, just talking about those forecast models, there's one thing that we're really concerned about right now with this tropical cyclone and the forecast around it, and that is the inconsistencies that we're seeing between major forecast models. This is a look at lunchtime on Friday from the East and West forecast model. You can see we've got a significant tropical cyclone near Darwin, and then this is a look at the GFS forecast model, which has basically a broad low pressure system around the Cape Wessel area, and other forecast models are saying similar things. It's just so many discrepancies right now in the forecast, which makes this forecast a very, very difficult one to present. But I would just like to say, from my experience of tracking tropical cyclones, the models that initialize this storm the best, which is where they get the current picture the most accurate on the forecast, are the ones that generally perform the best on the forecast itself. Now, what I mean by that is whatever the model is that's predicting the storm the best right now, or understanding the storm the best right now, is the one that's going to nail the forecast 9 times out of 10. Now, this is a look back again at the European forecast model, the East and West, and you can see that tight area of low pressure here where those wind lines are rotating around each other very quickly around that area of low pressure towards the west of the Tiwi Islands. And then this is a look at the GFS, which has this kind of broad trophy area of low pressure here that extends. We've still got that tighter area of low pressure that's distinct on the forecast modeling, but it's more kind of that trophy broad sort of stuff. So the GFS is not doing as good of a job, and that's why I'm trusting the East and West forecast model a lot more. And that's the model that is favouring the stronger cyclone, the more significant storm here. Darwin, this is a system that you need to watch very, very closely. I'm going to run you through the forecast right now. You can see over the next couple of days, we're expecting the system to slowly meander around in the Arafura Sea, very close to the Northern Territory coastline, but that's not going to be too much of a problem because it doesn't have that much in the way of mountainous areas like North Queensland, for example, so land interaction is not really going to be a concern. And then intensifying up to tropical cyclone status sometime on Wednesday and getting close to Category 2 strength tropical cyclone status sometime on Thursday before it finally begins to make that U-turn, pulled back down to the south. That's a very coherent picture between major forecast models, is this system here slowly meandering out to the northeast, and then sometime around Wednesday or Thursday making that U-turn back down to either the south or to the southwest. We're not 100% sure what's going to actually happen here, and that will have major ramifications on who sees the most rainfall and who sees the strongest winds from this tropical cyclone, because it is now, at least in my books, quite likely to get up towards tropical cyclone status. As we push this forecast out even further, you can see the European forecast takes it into the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf, where it then undergoes a period of rapid intensification, making a landfall on the northwest coast of Western Australia as a Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone, but it appears to peak out as what looks like somewhere around that Category 3, high-end Category 3 status at the very least here, at 964 millibars, and sustained winds approaching 150 kilometres an hour here, with wind gusts approaching 250 kilometres an hour in this centre. Now, that is an extremely bullish estimate from the European forecast, which we're looking at right now, and it's by far the strongest that we have on all of the major forecast models. You can see the GFS taking it into the Northern Territory as a very weak tropical cyclone. The ICON forecast model still has a reasonably powerful system over the top of Darwin, but nowhere near to the magnitude that that other forecast we just looked at has. And the Axis takes this as a bit of a weaker system further out towards the west, in a similar vein to what the EastMF is predicting here, but a larger and slightly weaker system. But the key message is this: we're beginning to get this picture painted, and that by this weekend we're going to have a tropical cyclone on our hands here in the Arafura Sea or the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf, undergoing a period of rapid intensification and making a landfall somewhere on the West Australian or the Northern Territory coastline at this stage. That is one thing that we can basically lock in. But then it boils back down to the uncertainties. It could landfall anywhere towards the east of this line here and the west of this line here, which includes Darwin, it includes Columbaroo on the northwest of Western Australia, it includes Wadeye, it includes Wyndham, it includes a whole swathe of locations here on the top end of the Northern Territory and into the northern parts of the Kimberley coastline. And to be honest, we really do not know at this point in time where this storm is going to be making landfall. We can make a pretty safe assumption that if it goes towards Western Australia, somewhere around here, it's going to be a substantially stronger system, so we'll be talking around Category 2 status at the very least, and probably closer to Category 3 strength severe tropical cyclone status. That will be a very good blow for these parts of northern Australia. We'll see some very strong winds and likely some pretty significant rainfall as well. So for Columbaroo, Wyndham and Kununurra, watch this situation very closely with this tropical cyclone. It could get quite strong indeed, and it could give you guys quite a bit of a scare. Now, if it goes to this part of the Northern Territory coastline, it will likely be a little bit weaker, down around that Category 2 status at the maximum, and same deal for the Tiwi Islands through here. We could be seeing Category 2 strength winds. It becomes less of a problem if it goes for Darwin here. It'll have some land interaction on the way in towards the Darwin area, so we will only likely see at the most a Category 1 tropical cyclone if it goes for Darwin, but that could still deliver some pretty significant rainfall accumulations. And if it heads out further into the Arafura Sea and then into the top end of the Northern Territory or into Kakadu, it's likely to be a tropical low or Category 1 strength status as well. So again, a pretty minimal blow up here, but definitely some significant stuff is possible, particularly for Western Australia if, as mentioned, this tropical cyclone does go for the West Australian coastline. One thing's pretty much guaranteed, and that's going to be the rainfall over the next week. It's going to be pretty extensive through parts of the Northern Territory, particularly if it does track a little bit closer to the Northern Territory coastline than what this forecast is suggesting. If it remains more sort of a West Australian track, then we're going to be seeing that rainfall pretty much only reserved for Western Australia. But still around the landfall side, if it does actually get up towards cyclone status and make a landfall, totals between 300 to 500 millimeters are possible. I mean, we're seeing the convection that this storm is blowing up right now, and again, considering the fact that it's already dropped over 250 millimeters for parts of the Northern Territory, and much more rainfall is definitely on the way with this system as well. It is a very wet tropical cyclone, and that's quite unusual for a system that's not associated with the monsoon. It's just a stalled Madden-Julian oscillation, kind of surgy type system here, which they do happen, but they're a lot more rarer than these monsoonal type lows and tropical cyclones that we see at this time of the year through the Northern Territory. It is quite an interesting system, that's for sure, but some big rainfall is most certainly possible. There's a big spread of rainfall accumulations as well over the next 7 days as well. We have some pretty decent rainfall on the forecast for Darwin, at least 100 millimeters of the stuff coming through, and to be honest, again, if this system does track over the Northern Territory coastline, we'll be seeing those numbers bumped up to about 250 millimeters, unless it tracks well out towards the east, when those rainfall accumulations will then become less of a problem for the Darwin area. But all major forecast models are incongruent, so at least 150 or 100 millimeters is coming through for the Darwin area, and there will be some significantly higher accumulations for wherever this tropical cyclone does actually make its landfall, and you can see that with the Icon forecast model here. Some absolutely crazy numbers on the forecast around Darwin if this system was to go into the Darwin area, 800 millimeters or so just offshore. Now, of course, this is all boogies. This is obviously some ludicrous stuff from the forecast models, but it gives you an idea that this system is going to be slow moving. It's going to be very, very wet in nature. There's a lot of rainfall already developing around this storm center, and it is very heavy stuff indeed as well, and extremely slow moving as well. So these rainfall accumulations are going to add up very quickly for areas impacted by the core of this storm if it can get itself going. I understand if this is a bit of a confusing forecast, so just to summarize this all up really quickly, what we are expecting right now is at least a high-end tropical low out of this system here as it tracks up towards the north into the Arafura Sea. So definitely it's going to be heading in towards this northerly or northeasterly direction. It's going to strengthen a little bit over the next couple of days, but by Wednesday we're kind of on that knife edge as to whether or not it's going to head out into this direction here and weaken off, or if it's going to get stripped apart by wind shear coming out of the west, or if it's going to dive south at that point and then strengthen. If it moves south on Wednesday and Thursday, we're likely to see a significant tropical cyclone, and considering the forecast models right now, that's probably the most likely situation that we're going to be seeing from this tropical cyclone, or tropical low in the making. I shouldn't really call it a tropical cyclone. Now, if it goes out towards Western Australia, we're going to see a strong tropical cyclone of Category 2 or 3 proportions. In fact, it could get a little bit stronger because the sea temperatures and the conditions in the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf are extremely favourable for this tropical cyclone. If it goes over the Tiwi Islands and then into the Darwin area, it will be substantially weaker, probably only a Category 1, maybe a high-end Category 1 up towards Category 2 strength tropical cyclone status, but still, it'll give them a good blow. It will give them some very decent rainfall accumulations into the Darwin area, but if it heads out further in towards this direction here, it's likely to only be a tropical low or a very weak tropical cyclone. Now, me personally, I'm giving this maybe about a 60% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone at some point into the next week, which is a pretty good chance for a tropical low. That's a very bullish forecast from myself, but I just think, considering the fact with the forecast models right now and what they're suggesting with this tropical low, and considering how it looks right now as well, it's very, very impressive. I think that's a very reasonable forecast to be giving. Other forecast models in the Bureau of Meteorology are a little bit more conservative, of course, as they would be, but this system here is definitely one to be watching quite closely, and right now it serves a great reminder to the Kimberley region and the top end of the Northern Territory, including Darwin, that we're now in tropical cyclone season, and these storms are going to get themselves going very, very soon. This is quite an unusual one, though. We don't normally see tropical cyclones around the Australian mainland until the end of the year and towards the early parts of the new year, so this is quite an unusual system. It's definitely developing about a month earlier than usual, but again, we are in tropical cyclone season. They can and they do happen, and this system here is looking to be served as a prime example of that. Lots of rainfall on the way, that's for sure, for the top end of the Northern Territory. I will keep you posted, and if you want more updates like this, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling confused at the forecast, please let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll answer whatever questions you have. This is a very confusing and a tricky forecast to give, and I understand if you have a few extra questions, so shoot them my way in the comment section down below. But that's going to be all from me this afternoon. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and I'll catch you on the next storm. Goodbye.